Welcome back to a long video from Ross and Rayon. 7 years ago, we purchased this land while we were still living in America. Not sure what we were going to do with it, but it was next door to my sister-in-law's home, so if we decided to build, this is where we would do it. And we had the plow come out and clear the land once we moved out here. We bought a lot of wood, some stakes, and started making our way to what would become our dream home. Follow me on the adventure as we go from a barren field to our dream house. This right here was the start of the shack and our stray dog. The shack was where the guys who were doing the construction lived, stored their tools at nighttime. Every home starts off with a foundation, and ours was no exception, with a lot of sand and a lot of gravel and a lot of cement. A bunch of holes were dug. A lot of holes were dug. Because if you're building a big house, you need a lot of foundation stones. And in Thailand, instead of having a ribbon cutting ceremony, we had a gravel pouring ceremony. Or in this case, a cement pouring ceremony. And tied to that was a rubber tree and some sugar cane. The sugar cane didn't make it. Not a rubber tree, a banana tree. The banana tree we still have. Horrible tasting bananas, by the way. They threw a couple pieces of gold, leaf, not real gold, some flowers, some coins, some holy water, and that was the first post. There's my evil genius contractor. I, of course, during this time had no idea what we were building. There were no blueprints. Just an idea in his head and my wife's head. And they told me, just go along with it. This would be our septic tank. I really wish I had knew of YouTube then, because I could have made some great videos of us building the house as we went along. You can see the shack in the background where they were sleeping. Some of these pictures I realize are out of order, but that's okay. You can get an idea of what was going on during the time period. This would be the base of our home, with all the rebarb being wrapped around everywhere. And as I was told so often, Ross, go away. You're not allowed around here. And so I used to sit from afar and take pictures and wondering, what are you doing? What is this for? What is that for? Like, what was this piece of wood for that they were using? And what was this black plywood they bought in? Why did we buy so much of it? And then it all came to, moment. That's going to be how they're going to pour the concrete. Or the concrete looks like when it's done. Still had no idea what was going on. I'm used to living in America where we build with wood, not with concrete. But the ground settled, and we needed to fill that and fill it quickly. And they did. They filled it very quickly. Even my wife tried to help filling in. They laid some rebarb down for the base, poured the concrete, and of course the dog had to walk across the wet cement. Then they started to build the sticks that would hold the upstairs. They built the columns. Watching these guys work, I was so worried somebody was going to get hurt or fall through or something. The worst that happened is somebody shot a nail through their hand with their nail gun. They were fine in just a few days. Oh, and somebody had sand in their eye, and they were out of work for a day or two. But other than that, no injuries. They were filling the upstairs with cement, 1-gallon bucket at a time, throwing it up from the cement truck to a middleman, to an upper man, to the wheelbarrow, to a guy who was pouring it, to another guy who would level it, and another guy who would smooth it. And in the course of about 5 hours, it was done. Those lower sections there on the right are becoming our bathrooms, and the one on the left is our front porch. And then they started to weld the metal frame to keep the columns from swaying any direction while the concrete settled. And I was told it needs to settle for a few days. A few days turned into a few weeks. Weeks turned into months. In the meantime, we're all living at my sister-in-law's house. I always loved this picture. This would become our kitchen area because the downstairs got bigger. As my wife saw it, said, "Can you make it bigger? Make it bigger." It was kind of fortunate that we didn't have approved blueprints when we built this, because we would have had to gone back and change them 3 and 4 times as my wife decided, no, I don't like these walls, change them, tear it down, that's not big enough. Oh, we got some more dogs, by the way. Starting our 18-dog clan here. And you see people walking around barefoot on the construction site. Nobody's worried about getting nails in their feet or screws because everything's built with concrete. The only nails were for the wooden frames to pour the concrete. Those would become our doors for upstairs that were delivered probably 6 months sooner than we needed them. Much like a lot of things we had have delivered long before we ever needed them. The toilets sat outside, but the crates were almost falling apart that they were shipped in by the time we got to put them in. This would be the start of our circular stairs because we had one set of steps for going up, another set of steps for going down. After the walls are built, you need to fill them with concrete at the top because you can't get them in there. These white bricks are an insulated brick. They're very light. They even float. Unlike the gray bricks that hold heat, these dispense heat and will keep the house cool and the air conditioner from seeping out easily. This would be one of the downstairs bedrooms. The house in total has 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 2 kitchens, a large living room, a larger family room, a 4-car carport, I at this point still had no idea what we were doing with this house. I was able to come up after they finished working each day around 5:30 to take pictures. I had a habit in the beginning of knocking over buckets, breaking level strings, and just generally being in the way. But I was fascinated by the construction. Electricity gets put in the wall. They had to chisel out the wall and put in the pipes. The concrete is smoothed by hand. That's not a machine that does it. And it's hard, it's heavy, and it's sweaty. And the person doing it is really good at doing it. My youngest brother-in-law was a master with concrete. The day the shingles arrived, my wife sat outside and just stared at them and made sure all the guys realized that I want these shingles up, and we didn't even have a roof yet. But they were on sale. And when you're buying thousands of them, saving 1 or 2 baht a shingle starts adding up. As you're seeing the size of the house, you're probably wondering what we spent on it. In total, between labor and materials, this house was built for less than $100,000. That's because everybody working for us was family, and we went out and purchased and delivered almost everything ourselves. If there's something we could deliver, we did. We had no middlemen or a contractor taking a cut off of things we were buying. So that really does put a savings in your pocket. Our contractor is my brother-in-law. He's just first brother younger than my wife. Around halfway through the visit, we realized we needed a truck, and so we bought my blue truck. And I'm still able to only come in from afar during the day to take pictures. Probably would have been really good to make videos at that time, especially as they're building the carport here. And when they put in the glass bricks to make natural light shine in the closets. Or when all of this stuff was delivered. Or watching them take those shingles and move them from one pallet on the ground level up to the second level in a Henry Ford style assembly line. We even put concrete wall pictures directly into the wall. All the posts had to be covered with something, so sandstone was our choice, and our house has 6 or 7 truckloads worth of sandstone. Our first set of dogs, Smoke there, was looking on with approval. The entire ceiling had to be welded. I should say the roof, all the metal had to be welded, and it was painted with this blue nautical paint, which is to prevent rusting of any kind. It's much better than a latex or oil-based paint. It's made for boats, so it's made to be able to get wet. At the same time, we started putting in the perimeter of the fence and realized that we needed more guys to work or had to hire somebody. So after the perimeter of the fence was put in, we stopped working on the fence and went to go find somebody else to do that. Luckily, our neighbors down the road did that for a living, and they put on our fence. We put in concrete trim. We put concrete pictures. We put a lot of concrete trim. A lot of wood trim. Oh, it flooded on us a few times because we live right next to a river that prior to us building had no water control on it. Now it does, and we don't get flooded like this anymore. Luckily, nothing was permanently damaged. We didn't even lose a single bat of concrete because they seemed to expect this, and all the concrete was stored in higher elevated areas of the property. And in the first 6 months, we had our first grandchild. Sorry, second grandchild. No, first grandchild. I have to think about it. We have 2 grandchildren now. But when the flood, the dogs loved it because they would go fishing. And finally, after 6 months, the shingles were going up. And only 2 people were willing to go up there, my contractor and his cousin. Everybody else was scared of the height of the roof. And that area is my attic. I haven't done anything up there yet, but maybe someday we will. Our downstairs and the back side of the house. The downstairs bedroom left side, or front side. and once the walls were smoothed outside, starting to realize how big this house is when you look at it from the street, because coming up to the house, there was nothing there but rubber tree farms everywhere. And we built this monster of a house in the middle of nowhere. And still is that way. There's still nothing else around us. But after the flood brings beautiful lilies. And a house started to take shape. And a ceiling being put in. Wall boards being put in on the outside for decoration. The bird's nest and denseling put in on the ceiling there. Even wild chickens started showing up on our property until the dogs took care of them. We had our first litter of puppies from the stray dog in the beginning. She went out and got herself pregnant and had 6 puppies. We kept 3 of them. That put us at 11 dogs now on the property, and we haven't even moved in yet. But as the ceiling went in, I was blown away. These are our bedroom ceilings. Outside light fixtures are being put in. The bathroom downstairs. And the bathroom upstairs. The fence was completed on the outside, but not 100%, just the main concrete, as my wife and her younger brother would make plans for what's going to be happening next. Because not only did I not know what was going on, most of the people who were building the house had no idea what we were building, so as to not scare them during the beginning process. Because if they saw what they were getting themselves into, I don't know how many of them would have originally stuck around. We did lose 3 or 4 guys during the time. They would come and go. Sometimes we would go to sleep, they were there, and in the morning wake up and they were gone. And they said, oh, he just left in the middle of the night. He wanted to go someplace else. Typically it happened on payday. While we enjoyed watching the puppies grow up on our property, they were still at work putting in ceiling fans that we actually now never use. They put in the floor, and my wife and I would drive to the tile shop to pick up all the tile and bring it back in the truck. Because it saves money that way. And I would sit there out this window like, wow, that's going to be my view. And this is my side view. And there's nobody around. This would become our front door. And the 3rd bedroom upstairs, the ceiling. The detail that my brother-in-law put into the ceilings is insane. Once the carport was done, you can see how easily 4 cars could fit in there. And they painted all those fiber boards to make it look like wood, while Smoke looked on with approval after just playing in the sand. We named him Smoke because he never was in one place for very long. He was always moving around as a puppy. And he was the color of smoke. This would become our downstairs kitchen. This went through 3 different renovations before my wife decided on what it was going to become. I chose this sink. It is huge. And the view from the corner part of our yard. The entire piece of land is about the size of a football field. And we needed to put plants. We needed some trees to cool it down. We put some mango trees, orange trees, grapefruit trees, custard apple, and some trees just for shadow. It was nice the first night when I saw those chandeliers. Because it was really the only power in the house. And on 3 days before New Year's, they dug our well. And we struck water, and they hit it at 60 meters deep. And it was very clean water. We were lucky. And at the same time, they put in our windows and screens. Our goal was to move in December 31st, before the end of the year. And we did. We moved into a house that had 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. That was the only part that was completed. The hallways weren't done. The kitchen wasn't done. The entranceway wasn't done. Just the 2 bedrooms. And we moved in anyway. We had water and power, internet, and with that, I was happy. This would become the base for our shed, and everything was in beautiful French doors. Our bedroom was finally completed. That's actually the back bedroom. And those doors go to the back bedroom. And the front bedroom. No, still back bedroom. Has all those back view there. While we were living in the back, they were working here in the rest of the house, putting in the ceiling. We had to keep the dogs out at this point because it was no longer safe for them to be upstairs, because there were lots of pieces falling all the time as they worked on from the scaffolding to put in the plywood and then the particle board wood that made this ceiling what it is. Again here, there were no plans. There's no blueprint to this. This is all in this evil genius's brain here. Him and his partner put all of this in. They wouldn't measure with a ruler either. It would just mark with a pencil, so it pretty much cut to fit every piece. And yet it's all straight and lines up. Even watching him do the trim, he was able to cut all the pieces for the trim before he put it in. And he didn't have to trim anything a second time. The man is an evil genius. While they were working on the upstairs, the rest of the gang was downstairs laying tile. And the dogs were playing in the sand. This would be my sister-in-law's dog, who would just come over every day. And when you pour concrete, dogs will walk in it. And by the time we got to the far end there, we were so excited, because that meant the scaffolding was going to be coming down soon, and we could actually walk around our house. And look at the mess they left. And this is why the dogs are not allowed upstairs. I always love pouring concrete, dogs walking. This would become our front door. It still needed a lot of varnish. This is the hallway once the tile was all going in. And what a mess. The fun part, when we were putting in the tile, we thought we bought enough. We bought them out of stock, and they said, we'll have more in a few days. We came back, and they had more, but it was a different shade. And so the one side of the house that doesn't get a lot of sun, where we live, is one color, and the other area where the living room, family room, and kitchen are is a couple shades different. And that area is always very bright. So when you're looking at it, you don't even notice that there are 2 different shades of tile. Our dogs from America look very happy. And the kitchen went in for upstairs. It wasn't a cooking kitchen as much as it was a reheating kitchen, because the kitchen downstairs was going to be the primary place for cooking. We wanted a craftsman style looking home, so we put these wall boards in all around. And at the same time the interior was being done, the exterior roof was being built to cover the stairs. And when it floods, the dogs love to go swim and fish. The lights we put in here are two-tone. They have a yellow light and a white light. When you flick the switch, they turn off and turn back on the different color, so you can go from day to night lighting. Over the kitchen, we hung these wicker-style lights. They also have the two-tone light bulbs in them. And the hallway was complete. And the living room was complete. The back porch was complete. The front porch was complete. Somehow we poured some concrete somewhere and dogs needed to walk in it. Our downstairs bathroom was complete. And the upstairs bathroom was complete. This is known as a floating sink because there are no legs that hold it. It's just built into the wall. We got a lot of this wall art put in the walls before they tiled everything or put sandstone everywhere or paint. The underneath the stairs, I've always referred to it as the fire pit, even though we've never had a fire in there. It's just what it looks like, a nice fireplace. It's basically become the dog's home at night. They like to sleep in that dark area. This was central command here for internet. It's also wired to all the bedrooms with a wire, so I could hardwire or have Wi-Fi extenders in every room. Because the house is built in concrete, I really wanted a strong Wi-Fi signal. This would become our outside porch. So the stairs really needed to be cleaned up. They got wall trim. They got tile, paint, and a faux finish. But while they were working, it was time to start putting in plants. And we bought a lot of plants and a lot of grass. And we laid a lot of grass. And we did all of that ourselves. The wife and I and two other people, we laid all the grass. We needed a driveway because we couldn't just keep driving on the wet dirt. So we hired the same people who did the fence to come in and put in a driveway for us. And they were able to get that done in about 10 days. This time we are now living in the house and living with all of this construction constantly happening. Scaffolding always around us, ladders everywhere, string for leveling. This is still part of our parking area. All told, you could probably get 20 cars to park on our concrete area. It's wide enough for 2 cars. It's 4 meters wide, which is 1 meter wider than our street outside, which is only 9 meters, or 3 meters wide, not 9 meters wide. And we were so happy to have a house starting to come together. That picture is actually for immigration. We even had a scorpion come by for a visit. We had to quickly get rid of those guys, though. And that is us, a man with dreams and a woman with vision. I saw that cartoon, and I've always enjoyed it. The original idea was that was going to be, that area on the right was where we'd park our car underneath the house, until we decided that we'd like having that open area underneath the house because it's always cool down below there, because the wind blows through and it's always dark. Once all the grass was in, we had to water the grass daily, sometimes twice a day. It was so hot, and it shrunk. But we weren't done. We wanted to have a grand opening to our property. And a mini grand opening on the side of the house so you could go from our property to my sister-in-law's property. That little wooden patio area there to hang out. The dogs have really enjoyed that place to hang out during the day. This would be the side gate that my sister-in-law would be able to come and visit us through. And it has the same look as the rest of the house. They didn't do a fancy ceiling here, though. And finally, we got an address, which meant we didn't have to sit in front of the post office to get our mail anymore. Though sometimes I wish we had still done that, because the mail carrier will only come around once a week now. Then it was time to build the roof to the carport. And we had to dig a second septic tank because the first one we realized wasn't big enough. And while digging, we hit a line and the water just started to flow in. It actually helped them digging because they kept the soil very soft. You just had to keep push a little together, and the pump of the water that we were using to pump the water out was just taking it out as a slurry out, and we were able to actually use that same soil in other parts of the land to make it level. This would be the carport. We also put a fancy ceiling up there as well. Nothing like the inside. We planted trees. We even made fake-looking trees in the carport. All those were coconut trees. We had a monitor lizard come visit us. They can go anywhere they want to. We did a nice faux finish on the outside. There are going to be some pictures out of order here. But the faux finish on everything made it giving a nice woody look. We saw a resort in Ko Chang that had outdone this, and we really fell in love with it and decided when we saw that we should do this with our house. We'd had to tile the driveway because concrete was turning black with mold. It had to be power washed, cement laid, and then the tiles were put in. And then we put in this corral here so we could pull in and out of the house and not have the dogs run out as we open and close the gate. I look back on these pictures 5 years later, and all these plants are now 10 feet, 12 feet, and higher. We even put in a small pool for the dogs because once we put the fence up, they were no longer able to swim in the river and cool off each day. And every day they would go into this pool here to cool off. Because of time, we get rain. We get a lot of it. But there we are, standing on our patio, happy as can be, taking care of the 11 dogs. But we still have 7 more dogs to come. And it's flooded again. But not as bad anymore because the city started to control the flow of water. And we had raised our land up high enough that it wasn't hitting us anymore. And then we got 4 more dogs. We adopted them from the temple. But it's crazy how we went from looking like this, a barren piece of land with weeds, to that. We went on vacation. I went to the shooting range. My drill instructor would be very happy with me, even so many years later. All 9s and 8s and 9s, and a few 10s. Our old dogs got along with the new dogs. The outside finish was complete. It just needed some paint. The tower, as it was being built, that holds over, I have no idea how many gallons of water, but it's a lot. All of our sprinklers were done with a concrete faux stick finish. This is what it would look like before we started tiling the driveway. And amazingly, the cement was able to stay dry, staying right underneath that awning outside the kitchen. They laid the concrete and the tile here in shifts, so nobody had to sit underneath the sun for very long as they moved the scaffolding and tarp they were using to keep them in the shadow. We had some extra tile, so we built a bench. The view from my sister-in-law's side, from the outside. While they were building the swimming pool for the dogs. I hope you like the music. And if you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, and follow Ross and Ryan.